Hey guys, Drifter here. Welcome to Black Ops 2 In Depth. In today's episode, we're going to be talking about the MSMC submachine gun, which is by far my favorite SMG in the game, and I think it's the best SMG in the game. Let's skip straight to the stats so I can tell you why it is I like it so much. This is the highest damage SMG in Black Ops 2. It'll deal 40 damage in close quarters combat, but drop off to 18 at a distance. This makes it tied with the PDW in amount of shots to kill, that being 3 shots to kill up close, but 6 at a distance. It has a 1.1x headshot multiplier, but because of the way the damage curve was created, it's a little bit more effective than the PDW's headshot multiplier because it doesn't drop quite as fast. On top of that, the higher initial damage of 40 makes it a little bit easier to punch through bodies at close range and shoot people through corners and things like that, so you'll pick up on a handful of kills that you wouldn't have been getting with other submachine guns. It is unfortunately a slow firing SMG tied with the PDW for the slowest firing at 720 RPM. If you put rapid fire on it, that'll increase your rate of fire up to 900, however that'll give you about a 75% range penalty and a pretty massive increase of recoil, so I generally avoid the rapid fire attachment. It does, however, have the highest range of any submachine gun in the game. The 3-shot kill range is 12 meters, and the 4-shot kill range is 25 meters. That means that it's going to kill people very quickly up to 12 meters, and it's going to kill people moderately quickly, or definitely effectively, up to 25 meters. The 5-shot kill range is so far out there that we're not even going to talk about it. You're very rarely going to have to shoot people 6 times to kill them with this SMG. Even though the rate of fire is low, it does have the highest damage of any submachine gun in the game, and the range is excellent, so I'm going to give it a very fast time to kill. It is not the fastest time to kill, but it is a fast time to kill, and because of the range, you will find that it is a very consistent time to kill. The recoil is low to moderate. It has a very similar recoil to the PDW and to the Vector, that being that close range very easy, medium range should be very easy. However, at long ranges you're going to have to shoot in lower bursts because it kicks just a little bit too much for long range. It is, however, a very controllable recoil. You shouldn't have any problems going fully automatic with this one. Another thing that I like about this weapon are that the iron sights are easy to use. I don't think that they're as good as the MP7 iron sights, but they're on par with the PDW and some of the other SMGs. They are not the greatest iron sights, but I have no problems using them. I find them very comfortable, I can get my targets very clearly, and the foresight is pretty small and it's not particularly obtrusive. For that reason, I almost never run any additional optics on this weapon. One of the other downsides to using the MSMC is that it has a slow reload time of a little bit over 2 seconds. This isn't the slowest reloading time, but it's slow enough to be a concern. Fast mags is not a bad attachment for this weapon, especially when you've only got 30 rounds in the magazine, which we're going to talk about in just a minute. The knife speed is 1.12 seconds, and your run speed is 100%. Both of these are very normal for the submachine gun class. It's a fast knifing, fast moving weapon. The raise and drop times are a little bit slow for the SMG class. It's 0.62 seconds and 0.32 seconds. The aim down sights in and out time are very standard for the class at 0.22 seconds and 0.2 seconds. These raise and drop times, I say they're slow, they're like hundredths of a second slower. You'll probably never even notice the difference. The hipfire on this weapon is good. It's good just like all the other SMGs are good because they all have pretty much the same hipfire profile, especially with a laser sight or even sometimes without it. You should have no problem hipfiring in close range and maybe close to medium range. The biggest flaw with MSMC is that it has the lowest magazine count of any submachine gun. It only has 30 rounds in the magazine, and even if you put extended mags on it, it only goes up to 40. Again, this is the lowest of any submachine gun, and this is a critical factor. You will have to reload more with the MSMC than you will with other weapons, even though it kills people very quickly, not many shots to kill. The way most people use submachine guns, which is close range spray and pray, bullet hosing, very aggressive kind of gameplay, you're going to need to reload a lot, and this is a critical factor as you will be out of combat and vulnerable while reloading. I think that the MSMC is the best submachine gun in the game when it's in skilled hands. I say that because it has a very fast time to kill, and if you look at the time to kill over ranges in the game, it has the best. The fastest killing submachine gun is the Scorpion, just because up close it's a bullet hose and it drops people almost instantly, but that's only in a very limited range. At even, I would say, somewhere between close to medium and then at medium range and at long range, the MSMC is the best performing submachine gun in the game. Even at long ranges, it'll outperform something like the MP7 just because it's more accurate. Even though the technical time to kill might be slower, I believe you'll land more shots. However, speaking of which, there is a big penalty for missing shots. Because it is a slower time to kill submachine gun, every shot you miss, you're just adding time to the time it takes to kill somebody. And whereas a faster firing gun like the Chicom or the Vector or the MP7, they just pumping these bullets out like crazy, and if you miss one or two, it's not such a big deal. If you're missing with this weapon, it is a big deal, and this weapon can really stink if you miss a lot. So I say this is an excellent weapon in skilled hands. However, if you are not very good at aiming down sights, if you don't like medium range SMGs, or if you're afraid of missing, do not use this weapon. I feel that it's best with a silencer and the laser sight. The laser sight tightens up my hip fire, and the silencer keeps me off the radar. I often run it with lightweight ghost and silencer to be fast and off the radar. Because the range is so excellent, the silencer doesn't penalize me quite as much. I don't even think the silencer quite sets me back to PDW range, so it'll still outperform the PDW even with a silencer. And I don't run a quick draw handle because I like more perks. What I normally do with this weapon, and what you see me doing in this gameplay, is I start with the hip fire and I hip fire into aiming down sights. Unless the enemy's not looking at me, then I can aim down sights to be more accurate, but it's worked very well since then. You could, however, use a quick draw handle so that you can aim down sights very quickly. I've done that in the past. It's very effective. And dual mags is another excellent attachment choice for this weapon because it reloads a little bit slow and your magazine is very small. You'll do a lot of reloading. In my case, with the Ghost and the silencer, I stay off the radar and I can kind of slink away and reload pretty quickly. However, if that's not your luxury, if you don't want a silencer, if the other team's just spamming UAVs, you want dual mags so you can reload quickly and get back into the action. At this point in the commentary, I'd like to talk about the patch that came out recently and how it affected submachine guns because I'm kind of reviewing submachine guns right now. 3 things were changed on all submachine guns. They were given a slightly bigger hipfire box. Their original hipfire box maximum spread was 4.75. They have their own little radial units, but it was 4.75, and they changed that to 5. And when you punch that into an area of circle formula, you know, pi r squared, you'll find that it made your guns about 10% less accurate, give or take a little bit. Not the biggest change, but definitely a change. You also have more kick and drag on your hipfire box. On the submachine guns, you used to be able to kind of like do like the Scorpion or the shotguns. When you held down the trigger, your crosshairs maybe got bigger, but they didn't move. They didn't drag up and down or left. Now when you hold down the trigger, your hipfire box actually has a tendency to drag up if you're not careful, so there is some added inaccuracy because of that. And all of the submachine guns got their wall penetration power scaled back slightly. It wasn't significantly, but they can't wall bang and corner people quite as well as they used to, which is unfortunate because I did like cornering people. The patch very specifically affected the PDW and the MSMC in 2 ways. It slightly increased their recoil. I'm gonna say very slightly because they said slightly, but I didn't even notice it. Like, I'm the in-depth guy and I test these weapons all the time, and I did not even notice the increased recoil. If I were testing this really hard, I would say it wasn't there. I doubt that you will notice it too, but supposedly it did get increased, and I thought you should be aware of that. As far as submachine guns were concerned, this was not a major nerf to submachine guns. It was more of a minor balancing tweak, and I believe that's the way that patches should be. They don't necessarily need to be these huge, massive, overhauling patches, especially when the game is performing well and is balanced as it is now. So do keep in mind that submachine guns have not been drastically nerfed. It was just a little minor tweak. Well guys, that's all for this episode. I hope that you enjoyed it, and I hope that you learned something useful. If you'd like to check out my previous episode, which is on the Vector, you can click the box on the left, and if you'd like to check out the next episode, which is going to be on the Chicom CQB, you can click the box on the right. Both of those will open up in a new window. And as always, if you enjoyed the content, don't forget to like, favorite, and subscribe. Drifter out.